Hello, nerds, and welcome to another episode of Nerd Herder,
Welcome to a very cold
another
episode of
main
Nerd Herd.
show. I'm your herd leader, John Wayne,
And I'm a very cold herd bomb Megan.
apparently. And today we're doing something yet again different. I feel like different is the theme of season 6, and hopefully some of that will carry over to season 7, depending on how much you love and or hate this. Um, but, I mean, you never know until you try. And
Exactly.
so we're trying, and we're doing things that seem cool and interesting and yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that. But no, we talked about, if you remember at the beginning of September, we talked about um the Fett family lore, the legends of Boba Fett and Jango Fett and everything, because um while there's some to talk about of Jango in canon, um there's uh, less than that to talk about Boba Fett in canon. Um, And so we wanted to lean more towards the legends because, number one, that's what I really love about the characters. That's what built those characters up for me.
Yeah.
And I felt like maybe some people didn't know some things about those characters. If you can pick a theme about some of the things we're doing lately, it's a lot about, hey, maybe nobody's heard of this, or maybe nobody's thought of this, or maybe nobody, just different things.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time talking about the Fets, as many people do. People love the Fets. Some don't, and that's fine. We don't hate you. We'll still invite you to the parties and everything. We just won't talk to you.
Exactly.
It's like that one kid that that doesn't go to church, and you're just like, yeah, don't talk. You can talk to them, but don't talk to
Wow.
them. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. You better
Um,
be kidding.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, but I completely understand it, and we talk a little bit about that. Go if you didn't check it out, go check it out. It does a better job, but I mean, we talk about that. I get why some people don't like Boba Fett. I get why people think I don't have enough reason to like Boba Fett other than he's cool, but he is cool and everything.
Yeah.
Um, and so we talked about that. We spent the rest of the month talking about the Mandalorian, another bounty hunter, another famous face, but again another T visor, another familiar look and everything. Like only the Mandalorian helmet wearing guys get all the bounty love and attention and everything like that. It seems like they get all the girls and all the guys and all the in between aliens and you know
Yeah. All the friends.
yeah, friends too. So we wanted to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit and talk about the lesser loved or lesser highlighted characters. Some of
Hmm.
these characters get attention because they're around Boba Fett. Some of these characters get attention because they are genuinely nice and some people like them. But mostly people know of them but don't really.
Yeah. You see like 2 seconds of them in Empire Strikes Back, and then you never know their name until someone releases either a figure or a book.
Right. I think we take for granted now uh, some of the bounty hunter characters because they're a little bit more household names,
Yeah.
even if just for the sake of knowing who they are on screen. But that doesn't necessarily translate to them being many people's favorites. And so we wanted to spend some time talking about those lesser than bounty hunters, the other ones. Um,
The other
we
guys.
we've done this way back when the smuggler not smuggler the Scum and Villainy book came out. We made sure to highlight these characters as the book does and whatnot. But this is a very different way of doing that because this, much like the Boba Fett episode, is going to be all Legends focused.
Yes. I.
So, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so from here on out, just to make sure people understand, we're not referring to anything canon, although we would hope you like it anyway. Although some of it doesn't kind of work in canon, but
No, a lot of it doesn't.
you can still like it. So everything we're using as source material for today is Legends, but it's awesome.
Specifically, Tales from the Bounty Hunter, that was edited by Kevin J. Anderson, written by many different people.
Yeah, we talked about this one on the Fett one because Boba
Yeah.
Fett has a story in this book. We're not going to talk much about it, although I will read a part of it for the ending of today's episode. Um, but we wanted to move away from giving him any attention. My favorite character, we wanted to move away from giving him some attention for the
Yeah.
sake of others getting attention because every other bounty hunter in this book is also super duper freaking interesting
Right?
and so unloved by so many people. And I don't think it's intentional, but I think a lot of people just don't give anybody that's not Boba Fett or not a bucket wearing man a chance. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's to the point that most people are only discovering like IG-11 now, and it's just like he had a twin in Episode 5, right? Like,
Yeah.
like there's other folks out there, and I think some people are getting opened up to a new world. I think some people knew it was there but never really paid much attention, and so I can't remember if it was you that kind of suggested this or where this came from. The idea,
I think I suggested it. Although
probably.
I have such a bad memory, you could tell me that something was your idea, and I'd be like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Totally. Um, so, do you want to introduce how we'll do this episode a little bit then? It's
Sure.
your idea. I don't want to approciate it.
Thank you for not
Yeah.
appropriating my idea.
You're
Not all
welcome.
men, guys.
Not
No.
all men.
Yeah, when I say not all men, I mean you specifically. You and Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill would never. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of him on Twitter lately.
Oh yeah, a lot for some reason. I don't know. I engaged enough to say that he deserves to keep his mustache forever. Like
Yes.
what? Like, can you imagine? Just what if they had rolled with it for Justice League?
Right?
What if they had just been like, "Nah,
Let
dog."
Superman have a mustache.
Oh my gosh, it would have been amazing. It really would have been.
All of his roles should include a mustache.
I rewatched the latest Mission Impossible with him in it recently because I was home alone and working on stuff, and I was just like, somebody reminded me of it in conversation. It might have even been on Twitter or something, and I was just
Probably.
like, you know what?
Mission
You know
Impossible.
what? Yes, because that fight scene in the bathroom with him and Tom Cruise and that one guy.
Which is the only scene I've seen from that
Oh
movie.
my, the whole movie is amazing. I tell people all the time, like, we will talk about it at some point. I love those movies, but
I've never seen those movies.
it's such an adventure to track between the beginnings of early '90s Mission Impossible.
Yep, 1996.
Like, third major film of his career, Tom Cruise, to now.
Do you know what the first major film of his career was?
Toby Maguire, Maguire, what?
Do
The
you
socks
mean
and
Jerry
underwear
Maguire?
one. Yeah.
No.
Really?
The first major film that he was in was The Outsiders.
Was he one of the goons, like background, like
Nope.
or something? Like, was he important?
He was important.
What?
He's one of the greasers.
Really?
That was before he had dental work done.
Wow.
And
really?
so like he has janked teeth.
Interesting. It took me forever to realize that it was Ralph Macchio in that.
Yeah, man.
Actually,
It's Ralph Macchio. It's oh my gosh, what's his name?
Patrick Swayze.
It's Patrick Swayze.
Knock off Kevin Bacon.
It's Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm 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 trying to add to the
I love that
conversation.
movie so much.
I know you love the book.
I love the book so much. You should see my copy of the book.
So anyway, that has nothing to do with today's episode.
Absolutely
I wanted
not.
to go back to that conversation, but we don't need to because
Hell
it's
yeah.
got nothing to do. So never mind. Go on.
Okay.
Continue.
So,
After you.
the idea is.
Please go.
I'm trying.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm trying so hard.
But in the end.
Go stick your head in the toilet.
Okay.
So basically, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be reading passages from this lovely book here. If you are not on the audio, or if you're listening through the audio, I'm holding in my hands a book.
Yeah, my book.
The good book.
Old book.
One of them.
Mm-hmm.
It is Tales from the Bounty Hunter, as I said. We both kind of picked a couple of different excerpts for every character that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
And we're going to be reading a little bit at the beginning of their story and in the middle of their story, I guess.
Well, we wanted to kind of I suggested kind of because there's so much to tell. Like there's not a lot. It's not like a lot of anthology where they try and fit a lot of stories in. It's actually a pretty normal sized book, but all of them get very long stories because it's only 5. It's IG-88, Bosk, Dengar, Forlum, and Zuckuss. They get theirs together.
Of course.
And then Boba Fett, so 5.
Yeah.
Because it's only 5 in a very traditionally linked novel, I think each one gets almost like 20 pages or something.
Yeah.
Like it's a beefy story for each one, and so wanting to highlight, here's what you need to know first and foremost of the character from an excerpt, and then also something more interesting later in the story that
Yeah.
kind of now that you know who they are, here's their most character moment and everything.
Yeah. For the first one, IG-88, this is my favorite one in the book. And
Yeah,
this is the
well,
story that made me love Star Wars.
yes. I was gonna say that's why this is like super significant. Because I mean, we've kind of talked about it before, and
Hmm.
you can go check out way back when we did an interview with the Living Force podcast with the guys over at Utini, and talked about it and whatnot. But like you watched the movies, you
Yeah.
liked the movies, I'd say. I don't think you were like extreme on anything
No.
from the movies and whatnot.
I
But
barely
then,
knew character names.
right. But then, you know, you put up with it a lot with me and until you found your thing. And that started and
It was deep sci-fi
Eric
is what brought
on
me in.
yeah, Eric on Twitter recently reminded me of the because we started it with the Utini thing because they brought that like find your IG-88, like find the thing that you love that makes you love Star Wars, and that IG-88 was that first, and
Exactly.
then Clone Wars and specific characters from there on, and then it's just like this rabbit hole. You're opened up to this whole new world because you found your one thing,
Exactly.
and that's part of why like we tirelessly tell people like check out these stories, read these things, look into stuff because you might find something that all of 99 other things didn't interest you but one did.
Hmm.
That makes the 100 worth it.
Yeah. And
um,
revisit things that you didn't like before.
yes, absolutely. I mean, I talked about it recently. I hated well, that's strong. I mean, I was generally meh on the Pirates movies, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I watched like part of the first one and basically judged everything afterwards by that, and
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't like Johnny Depp because of it actually. Like I let it dominate a lot of opinion about me. And then recently I couldn't sleep one night and I put it on because they're all on Disney Plus, and lo and behold, I freaking love those movies.
Yep.
They're amazing. I have a lot to appreciate. ILM worked on them.
Hmm.
Like there's so much, and like I love that, and it's one of those things that it was. Oh my gosh, like I want to say like 13, 15 years. I don't remember when the first Pirates came out, but it was a while ago. I remember because I was a
Yeah.
kid in Savannah.
I remember going to see it with my family.
Yeah, like so forever ago. I've lived these years and hated these movies for no good reason. I was
Nope.
an idiot. And so sometimes you realize that when you go back and give something a second chance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just figure out, no, I was right.
And
They
are
suck.
you even more excited to go on the Pirates ride when we go back to Disney?
I loved that completely
Well, yeah.
independent of it because what I loved about Pirates at Disney was it's so
It's
disconnected.
just a
It's not
great
yeah,
ride.
it's not the movies. Like but I love that the basis of that went into the movies.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I can appreciate that more now. So definitely give things another chance. Give a lot of things chances. You might find your next favorite character. Um I don't know why we decided to read from it,
I
but we
don't
did.
remember. It's a good
Um
book.
and so yeah, so we'll read excerpts, talk a little bit about it, and yeah, just go from there and have a good time with that. Hopefully, we don't know what's going to happen really
Yeah.
until we do it because this is completely new. So
Let's find it out together.
yes, if you want to start us off there.
All right. I am reading from IG-88 story. I forget the title of this one.
I think therefore I am.
Yeah. Therefore I am the tale of IG-88.
There you go.
Now he knew who he was and why he was here in this laboratory. He and his identical counterparts had been built to serve the Empire, to fight and kill, to seek out and destroy the targets selected by Imperial masters. IG-88's assassin programming was strong and compelling, that's the word. But he was less than pleased that he must follow orders from these inferior biological beings. He was a special kind of droid beyond the capabilities of other machines, superior. I think, therefore I am.
Mm,
Rene Descartes,
yeah.
powerful. Yeah.
Um. So, what was it about this story really that made you like IG-88 so much?
So we've talked before about my love of sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
I love weird, deep sci-fi, and one of my favorite sci-fi stories is "I have no mouth, but I must scream,"
Mm-hmm.
which
Which is where
is
this comes from, right?
it's based on that story,
Mm-hmm.
and that first line of
There's a video
"I
game about
think,"
that, isn't there?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, "I think, therefore I am," which you've heard it before, but if you don't know, it's
Oh,
from
yeah.
philosopher Rene Descartes.
Mm-hmm.
The essence of being a human and intelligent and sentient is thought, basically. That is boiled down to its barest. Because I'm not a philosopher. I'm not French.
Which is kind of interesting compared to Qui-Gon's line in episode 1 to Jar Jar of the ability to speak does not make one intelligent, because
Mm-hmm.
it's almost this thing. So it's just like, are you brainless? And it's, I can speak. Mm, that doesn't mean anything. Going deeper than that. Can you think? Can you critically
Yeah.
analyze? Can
Can
you?
you understand?
Ooh, that's a big one. Um, and I think that's the compelling thing of IG-88's character from here is not to emphasize too much on the word, but like he says, I think. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
processing. He's trying to understand like what's going on around him as it's all happening. And
Yeah.
I think that's when he makes the decision of like general inferiority around him.
Yeah, and that's something that I love about the character characterized in this story.
He hates everything. No, I'm just
Exactly.
kidding.
No, that is
Yeah,
it.
right.
He hates so deeply the process that he's been put through up until this point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he has been programmed to kill.
Mm-hmm.
He has been programmed to carry out orders by the Empire. In the first 5 seconds of his sentience, he has time to think, I don't think I want to do that. Like,
Not for someone else.
yeah,
He wants his own
exactly.
stuff.
He is still in the metal clamps holding him to whatever he's on, the slab or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When he has the thought of, you know what? No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's another great line in the story where he is looking at his creator and she is screaming, and he's like, well, something must be wrong. But it can't be me. I am going far beyond their expectations.
Right.
That's a good thing.
I'm doing what you programmed. Like I'm doing it better than
Exactly.
you programmed even.
He is like the exact opposite of the robot from iRobot,
Mm-hmm.
your favorite Outer Limits episode.
Oh, I want to say Sam, but I could be wrong.
Something like
I
that.
haven't rewatched it. I rewatched it maybe sometime last year.
Yeah, we watched it
Um,
together.
yeah. Anytime I get a chance, I show people that it's my favorite Outer Limits episode ever. It
It's
doesn't
such a good
it doesn't
episode.
matter if it's the original '60s version or the more recent like '90s version. But Outer Limits is a very Twilight Zone, and I'll
Yeah,
say that because most people know what I mean when I say Twilight Zone in terms of your episode is your story.
yeah.
Hey, consider if you will,
Think of a world.
and it's the setup of what if a robot could think?
Mm-hmm.
What if a robot, well, like what doors does that open up? And
Yeah.
humans basically deem, well, you know what? I'm not gonna.
Because you got to go watch it.
You gotta watch it, and you know what? Maybe we'll do an episode about it because I freaking love that episode,
We
and I
should.
could talk an hour about that.
We'll do your favorite episode, The Outer Limits. We'll do my favorite episode of Twilight Zone.
There you go. I like it.
There's something on the way.
Oh gosh,
Something.
I thought you were gonna pick the one about the beautiful faced lady.
That
I
one
love
too.
that
That
one.
one's really good.
Anyway, so yes, he's the opposite of
Yes.
thinking and making right choices. I
Yeah.
mean, it's very interesting, and I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of science that could be done to understand how like an AI could process
Yeah.
that way and everything. But I mean, he goes rampant, and then the thing a lot of people don't realize, and what this story goes into. So it starts with his creation, and that's the thing is many of these stories travel time.
Yeah.
Like they go over a long period. So it goes from his creation to getting hired and to the very end, which I'm sure you're going to reference.
Oh, I am 100% going to talk about it.
But in between, a lot of people don't realize there were more than one IG-88, and we're not
Yes.
talking about like we're not talking about IG-88, IG-89, IG-90. Like IG-88
Yeah.
is his number.
He transferred his consciousness into 4 other droids.
Yep. So the original is A, then
Mhm.
B, then C, then D. The droid that most people are familiar with that's on the Executor that goes after Han Solo is B. He's the one lying in a scrap pile on Bespin.
Exactly.
If you missed Watch Mojo's Easter egg list and didn't know that was a thing, there's one humped up in the corner, and Boba Fett killed him. Like
Yeah.
he got there first and killed him. Um,
Because nobody else knew.
Right.
They thought that there was just the one.
Exactly, and that was the whole point.
Yeah.
While IG80, like while the main one, like while A was doing all the scheming and
Yeah,
everything,
he was rubbing his tiny hands together
right?
in the evil pyramid of doom.
B was earning credits and gaining information and everything.
Yeah,
If
he
you've ever
was
played,
earning clout.
yeah, if you've ever played the Shadows of the Empire game, I think is what it is. Dash Rendar fights IG88, but it's actually IG88C.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's really
Yeah.
it's really interesting the story built because he has this galaxy dominating scheme. He's a bounty hunter, so you think, that's the whole
Yeah.
thing. He makes you think, what, a bounty hunter droid trying to take over the galaxy? No
Yep.
way, that's stupid. Like, how could he possibly? That's what he wants you to think.
Exactly. His entire scheme in this story is, well, all living things must die. I'm going to take over the universe, and while I do that, I'm going to transfer my consciousness into every droid I come into contact with, so that they understand, and we have a hive mind.
Right, Star Wars Skynet.
This is the Borg.
Right.
Like, this is legit the Borg. And it just, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to read this story.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to talk about the end because that is like the most.
I was gonna say because I talk about it good details. So
dramatic irony that I love so much in sci-fi and any story I've ever read is just like your hubris.
Right.
That is your downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this entire story is him transferring his consciousness, going and majoring in the minutia of his plan, getting to a point where he can do something big.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can take over something huge so that he can take over the world and kill as many
right.
Organics as he can.
He's got to move quick and hard. He's got to move powerfully.
Yeah.
Like if he couldn't just kill everyone, like he and his form could not kill everyone.
And so he takes over what is quite possibly the largest droid in the galaxy.
Essentially, I mean, and if you loosen the term a little bit, yeah.
It's technically a droid, all right?
I mean, I guess if it has a CPU brain, sure.
I'm going to call it a droid. He takes over the Death Star.
Death Star 2, specifically.
Death Star 2.
So again, this takes place over time. So all of these things are happening, and eventually, he gets to the Battle of Endor. It's those behind-the-scenes things.
Yep.
That make the universe so big and wonderful.
And here's the important thing. He takes over the Death Star 2, and he deactivates the other IG-8s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is the last one standing. This is A.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to my next quote from the book.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he is in the central computer of the Death Star 2.
The Death Star 2 is IG-88.
Exactly. He has taken over everything from the largest operations of the gun to the smallest operations of the doors.
Okay.
Okay, let me get to it. From his hiding place in the Death Star's brain, IG-88 took particular pleasure in spying on this despicable, shriveled human who seemed to think that he had invincible power. Everyone treated the Emperor as if he was supremely important, much to IG-88's amusement. As the entire Imperial fleet arrived, waiting in an ambush for an expected rebel attack, IG-88 watched the Emperor plotting and scheming, trying to outthink the rebels, outmaneuver them. Palpatine believed that he was so smart, so superior, that IG-88 had no choice but to briefly demonstrate the man's impotence in the grand scheme. So basically,
okay.
IG-88 takes controls of the doors to the throne room.
Uh-huh.
And he just shuts them and then opens them and then shuts them for 5 minutes in front of Palpatine.
Interesting.
And then, he calls over stormtroopers to be like, open this door. And they can't get it to work.
Right.
So finally, IG-88 gets bored and he's like, man, you can go through. And so that's just a little bit of a story that I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, of course, rebels attack.
Yeah, the story stays the same. Like, the Death Star gets blown up.
And in his last moments, he has this monologue of, "Look at me. Look at what I've accomplished. Look at how superior I am."
Mm-hmm.
Just completely destroyed.
Right.
And that is the most hilarious ending to a story about a killer robot I've ever heard.
Oh yeah.
Like that, when I first read that,
because you can't calculate for that.
Exactly. Like, how do you? How?
You can't. Like that's the thing. That you can't factor in hope and luck and that the underdog will win. Like you.
Exactly.
All the calculations say no. It's the underdog. So there's a reason it's called that. It's not going to win.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really cool. It takes a very static character to a whole different level. And by and large, some of it can still exist. That's what's the cool part.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I forgot. The full quote at the end of the book is, "I think, therefore I am. I destroy, therefore I must endure,"
Mm-hmm.
which is just.
Oh yeah, very metal.
So good.
Yeah.
It's metal.
Oh yeah.
It's metal.
I love it. That's the thing. Yeah, IG-88 is a great murder robot character.
Oh yeah.
For sure. The one little bit we get of him, she shows up in a couple of Forces of Destiny episodes, and whatnot. But in the main major piece we get in an Age of Rebellion comic, they really show that same kind of just, oh no, you can't. I'm superior. I'm the best. They're like, he just really goes on rampage, but he also uses it as an example of this is why I'm better.
Yeah, he gets dismantled.
Yeah,
and then
purposely.
Pulls himself back together.
He came up with a scenario of this is how it'll work, and guess what? It was for hardly anything. Like he didn't do it for the credits. He did it for just the sake of loving murder. Like
exactly.
I love that.
I love the character of 000 because he's a fun murder bot. Like he's flamboyant.
Yeah, like maniac. Like he's very exuberant. He delights in it in like very high fashion and everything.
I'd say 000 is a Bond villain.
Yes.
IG-88 is a Kubrick villain.
Yeah. I mean that can work. I was gonna say he's very. I don't know exactly what I was thinking, but not that. But that. I mean that. Yeah. It's just very much just just cause I'm bad.
Because like he reminds me of characters like Hal from 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And also, oh gosh, what's his name? The lead droog from Clockwork Orange.
Malcolm McDowell.
Malcolm McDowell, yes. But his character.
Chancellor Valorum.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Chancellor Valorum, but it's not though. It's not Malcolm McDowell, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is.
Sure?
Chancellor Valorum is the butler from Haunted Mansion,
That's not Malcolm McDowell.
Isn't it?
No.
Who's Malcolm McDowell?
Malcolm McDowell is oh gosh, he's your favorite doctor. What's his face from Halloween?
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's Malcolm McDowell, babe.
Interesting. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But okay.
Welcome to Conversations and Arguments.
We'll find out.
Nerd herder.
We'll find out.
We'll find out in the break is what we'll do.
We don't have a break.
I will make it.
So you have our next story as well.
I do. It's about the mummy. It's about the mummy Dengar. Where is it?
So it'd be the third one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Dengar jumped up and hurried down the mountain trail, watching in the dark, careful not to snap a branch or dislodge a rock. He ran with long strides and incredible swiftness. The Empire had enhanced him physically, designed him for great deeds. Dengar was much stronger than the other men, faster. He saw better, heard much that was inaudible to men with lesser ears, and he felt almost nothing. Little pain, little fear, no guilt, no love. Sad boy Dengar.
Yeah, so one recurring theme of these stories is they try to take information given in the context of the one scene we're given and build on it.
Yeah.
So in the first one with IG-88, it's a lot of, hey, he's not moving much. That's just a stupid prop. That's why. But in universe, it's because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like he processes so fast that he's got all the information he needs. All he needs is the job. So the rest of the time is just spent just looking down on humans.
It's like that the movie Clockstoppers.
No idea what you're talking about.
Okay. So Superman from Smallville gets a hold of a time-stopping watch that can stop time. Yeah.
Well,
So
no, it's
that's
just because he's a computer, he processes faster. So
yeah.
it's literally just a matter of for him things like he has to slow down to keep up with humans.
Also, I swear there's someone out there who's seen that movie.
I doubt it, but okay.
Prove him wrong.
With this one, you've got a guy who looks kind of rough and gruff,
He
and
looks like a mummy.
I mean, he's got a gun, so yeah, he could be intimidating. But overall, it's just very. We got to make him seem like something, He like of all the characters, like he's got some ground to make up
Yeah.
in terms of coolness.
Why is he wearing a turban?
Right. So, the idea going in that he's kind of this super soldier, also explaining, wait, isn't he wearing snowtrooper armor? What if he's kind of got an imperial backstory? Like, they work in these things that all of a sudden make him like, yeah, he's that guy that looks like he's not a lot of trouble, but you still don't want to mess with. Because
Yeah.
turns out somebody in the bar's got a story about, don't mess with Gengar.
Gengar. Don't mess with Gengar.
Um, so yeah, and that comes up a couple of times with the character of Dengar and everything. Um, Also, what's interesting is that with Dengar's, it subverts expectations in that he's not really that like bloodthirsty and
No.
malicious
He's not.
in
Like,
his pursuits.
he starts off with like a story about I'm gonna kill this guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got the job. He's going after Han and everything, but then like all these other things catch him and get in his
Yeah.
way in terms of like he stops to help a lot. Like not necessarily help old ladies across the street, but like selfishly helping in a way. Like
Yeah.
he frees some I think like slave dancers or like
Yeah.
or something.
There was an evil politician who was kidnapping little young women,
Right.
and so he frees the women that he
and
had
he
kidnapped.
and he meets one that he really like not young. There she's
Yes.
consensual age.
Yes, they're legal.
But yeah, and like they hit it off and everything, and it's just very cute.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, like if I can, I don't know if you what your second I don't know what you picked, and you don't know what I picked, so
Exactly.
it's interesting. But like Boba Fett's his best man at their wedding.
Yeah.
Years later.
Yeah.
And part of it's because Boba Fett owes him.
Boba Fett owes everybody in these stories.
So Boba Fett, like Legends Boba Fett, everybody hated him. Nobody was his friend. Nobody liked him. It like what Clone Wars did to make him kind of a team player, kind of a go get him leader, kind of no, that wasn't there. Yeah, he had honor, but if anything, that's what made people hate him more.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's good at his job. He's so freaking pious about it. Like I only hate him because he's just better than me. Like it's just a lot of that attitude. And so Dengar's no different. He doesn't like him. He actually has a scuffle with Boba, but when he finds out that Han was seen near Jabba's palace, he goes to investigate and finds out, well, dang, Jabba's dead. His sail barge blew up. And what's that crawling out of the pit in the ground? It's Boba Fett. And he rescues him and nurses him to health. And it's just like, would you like a turban like me? Like, I'm just kidding. But like, that's one of the original survival stories of Boba Fett from the Sarlacc this is one of the earliest ones actually of did he die there, did he not, how, and so they become best buds, and it's just adorable kind of.
It is. Like I love character development in that way. Like give me enemies to friends all day, every day.
I do love what they did with him in Clone Wars with Simon Pegg playing him. He's just this ridiculously stupid Aussie.
So inept.
I just love it. So I do kind of like the canon one of he's that way because he's just so dang stupid and reckless.
Yeah.
But no, Legends did some good for Dengar's character. He was very interesting. Legends tried to make everybody interesting.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to write stupid characters.
Which sometimes those are my favorite characters.
I was gonna say sometimes that does happen, but
Hondo.
When people get a chance, like they wanted to make the stupidest seeming character the most important.
Mm-hmm.
Like they wanted to give everybody some ridiculous story that made them seem like they mattered. And I like that. I like that aspect of Legends and just Star Wars storytelling in general. Everybody's got a story, and in their own way, everybody's important.
Yeah. I've traveled all throughout the galaxy, and I've never met anyone who didn't matter.
Exactly.
The Doctor.
What was your next? Did you have your other one?
I did. It's very small and
I love that you picked short ones,
yeah,
and I feel bad
yeah.
now.
You should. I can't read. Yet, Dingar had always chosen his victims, harvesting only those he felt deserved to die. Inevitably, Manaru voiced the question, and why is it that Han Solo deserves to die? Dingar was forced to admit, I'm not sure he does, but he almost killed me once. I want to catch him, force him to tell me why he did it, and then I'll decide whether or not to let him live.
See, and that's another thing is it makes him moralistic. It makes like it tries to explain why these guys are doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Are they all just bad to the bone, or is there something else there?
I feel like there's a lot of people I would love to just grab and shake and be like, why did you do that? I can understand that completely.
Right.
Because, like, we don't get the story of how Han Solo almost killed him, but I'm sure we'll find it somewhere.
Right. Um, so yeah, I picked a little bit longer, and I feel bad about that now.
Don't feel bad at all.
um,
See, if I had picked what I originally wanted to, I would have read the entire Age-88
right.
story.
So yeah, just bear with me, I guess. I don't know.
The bear is here, and she is listening.
So you got IG88, which obviously you would get IG
Of
because
course.
your favorite and everything, and then Dengar just came next. So I got I wanted Bosk,
Mm-hmm.
so I got Bosk, and then Zuckuss and Forlum. It just made sense, and I'm really happy with that. So the whole thing about just making these characters make sense and being like, is there something more? There's nothing more with Bosk. He's a space lizard that goes and wants to kill. Like I love the trade-off of IG-88 wants to kill. Dengar, kind of moralistic, but he'll do what he's got to do. Bosk definitely wants to kill, and then Forlum and Zuckuss you'll have to wait and see. But anyway, Bosk stood on an inner deck of the Imperial Star Destroyer, the Executor, hurrying to read an Imperial data screen. Squinting, he swung aside his blast rifle, an elaborate neck sling suspended it under his left arm, and pushed his face closer to the screen. On board, lighting hurt his super-sensitive eyes, and the screen was only marginally brighter than the corridors. He had trouble picking up the contrast. Another list appeared. Known antagonists. Big Bunji, former associate. Jabba the Hutt, former employer. Pavu 2-for-1, former associate. Bosk flexed his toe against the Executor's deck. Chewbacca and Solo would be crazy to hide among their enemies, but Solo was notorious for hiding or trying crazy tricks. Lord Vader's personal aides had furnished volumes of data on all 6 Hunt finalists. Somehow Bosk must discover the clue that would lead him to Chewbacca first. And Solo. He tightened his fingers, curling massive wedge-shaped claws into his palm. His hands were not nimble, but strong, with deep ridges, mature scales. He had hunted Wookiees for over 60 standard years, and when a blaster or grenade finally killed Bosk, his death would shower hundreds of Jagganoth points onto his bloodthirsty eternal scorekeeper that he worshipped so. Serene behind pale, lidless eyes, the scorekeeper existed beyond time and space, numbering every deed of every Trandoshan hunter. She could zero out his life if she wanted and if he was shamed or captured, and she could double his profit if brought home a great prize. Ambushing Chewbacca was Bosk's sacred obligation. It goes further, but I'm going to stop there because I feel like you get the gist of the section
Yes.
I picked. I picked what gave Bosk his driving motivation and everything, in that he's obsessed first with Chewbacca, which is unique amongst every other one of these characters.
Yeah, everyone wants a piece of Han Solo.
Yeah, well, I'll say IG-88 doesn't care.
No.
It's just a human. Dengar has his motives. Forlum and Zuckuss have, they're just doing a job. I'll explain later. But then, Boba Fett and Bosk are the only major players that have intentions. And Boba Fett's is obviously Han, but Bosk's is mainly just Chewbacca. And it's literally just because of the hunt. And I love the lore building they do to make it make sense why they're obsessive with the hunt and everything like that. It's very, Predator lore in that well, at least Predators are honorable, I'll say. Trandoshans are meant to be honorable, but they stray away from that quite a bit. It's all about getting the prize.
Yeah.
And the idea of this eternal scorekeeper is an interesting idea of religion for Bosk and them and everything. And so the story really is just about Bosk attempting to close the bounty to get Chewbacca. And what's really funny and ironic about it is he enlists the help of a couple of others that have intel not only on Han and Chewie, but promise more intel on Wookiee slaves for him to hunt as his heart pleases. Turns out they used Bosk to be able to get in and break out Wookiee slaves and trapped Bosk and turned him in. Like, it was this whole thing of like his obsession turned into the thing that thwarted him.
Humorous.
And I love it. More so than that, even I love what kind of happens at the end for him. Obviously, he makes it out. He does get away from this scenario, but I love the hopelessness that it seems, and this idea that everything that he had in terms of his murderous, like conniving, huntful intentions gets just completely turned on its head. Boss crouched on a prison cell bench. His claws twitched. He tried gouging strips into the wall, but they were coated with transparent steel. The stormtrooper outside snapped to attention. Imperial Governor Io Descend, a tall, plump marshmallow of a man who would not have dared challenge Bosk on equal footing, strode up and stopped outside the force-shielded opening. An even plumper woman stood beside him. She hung on his arm like a growth, batting false eyelashes full of decadent veins. Bosk half expected them to flutter away and join some swarm of winged insects. "Oh," she exclaimed, "you were right, Io. He's enormous." Bosk glowered. "You ruined my chance for promotion, bounty hunter." That's not annoying enough. Desmond said darkly.
You ruined my chance.
Any last requests? "Promotion?" Bosk shouted. "What are you talking about? Those Wookiees were bait in a trap, bounty hunter. Instead of the rebel fleet, I caught one miserable lizard. And at least I can make good on a promise I made to Phoebe 2 years ago." He encircled the woman's shoulder with one arm. Her bloodthirsty smile chilled Bosk. It made him picture the scorekeeper wearing a human mask. "I've always wanted—" Oh, sorry, that's the woman. "I've always wanted a lizard-skinned gown," she cooed. "Full length with only seamless will do. Or it's not authentic. Oh, yes, Io." She tilted her head and pressed one fleshy cheek against his hand. "This will be lovely." And so I love...
That's obnoxious.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Also, we could have used the filters.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I kind of... Hopefully people thought that was funny. But, yeah, I mean, it's this idea. It ends off with him... I mean, again, he's been duped by these people he entrusted to help him because he was obsessed with hunting Wookiees. Turns out he ended up helping Wookiees. It's just hilarious. But then he's put in the place of creatures he's treated like that many, as he says, 60 years. I mean, his whole intention with Chewie was to skin him, to get the pelt, like hunt. And here he is as a, being looked at like a piece of meat, a piece of the hunt and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's just that comeuppance. We watched a movie recently where that, like, I gushed over that because I love that storytelling. I love when bad people get their comeuppance like that. Obviously, I believe in grace and forgiveness and all of that stuff, but I love stories where absolute evil gets treated absolutely evil. I know that's all wrong and everything like that, but I can appreciate it in fiction. I think we all can.
I also love when a character gets their comeuppance while trying to screw over someone else.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's even more just amazing when that happens.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, again, I picked long ones.
You
so.
did. You did indeed.
But you might be tempted to skip over what seemed like the two most boring characters of the Bounty Bunch, but I would dare say you'd be missing out on a wonderful story if you skipped out on Forlum and Zuckuss.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, I just showed everybody my neat shirt, which is the Bounty Bunch.
The Bounty Bunch, yep. Get yours on TeePublic today. Yeah, so you've got Bughead C-3PO knockoff. You've got Bughead, Bug. What the heck kind of characters could these possibly be? How could they possibly be, number one, bounty hunters, number two, a threat, number three, interesting?
Yeah, because Zuckuss is kind of chunky.
Oh, yeah.
He's very chunky.
Now, what's interesting, Bosk's story doesn't really do anything to, like, hey, why does he do that? Why does that happen? Like, it really just shows you, like, that scene.
He is Lizard.
Yeah, so that scene, you literally see the scene in the beginning in the movie, like when he's kind of leering over the Imperials when they're like, "Oh, bounty hunters, we don't need their kind." Like
And he goes,
that's what's happening while all of that's going on. Is he's thinking about how he can get this score, how he can finally get Chewbacca. Um, this one goes back to the sort of Dengar of how can we make them interesting? How can we make this make sense? What the heck's going on here? I don't even know if originally Forlum and Zuckuss were meant to be partners or if they were just meant to be independent characters. But obviously, you got two Bughead characters. You're like, nah, they kind of go together, don't
yeah.
they? Yeah. So let's see a little bit of their story. I might stop somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. What
It
is their
depends on how
story
much is
called?
it. It's called Of Possible Futures: The Tale of Zuckuss and Forlum. Let me go to so Bosk's was the prize pelt, the tale of Bosk. So, sorry, I forgot to
You're
read
good.
that off. Um, so I actually have three for them, I believe.
They're just that interesting.
Um, well, because the first two, the beginning and end ones I picked are very Forlum. I wanted to get some of Zuckuss in there, as well because they're both very, 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 very interesting characters. Actually, does Darth Vader know? The droid Forlum asked Zuckuss, the Gan bounty hunter partner. Forlum had asked the same question every 8.37 standard minutes from the start of Zuckuss's meditation. In 2 hours they would dock with Darth Vader's flagship to accept an Imperial contract, and they had to know if they were heading into a trap. Zuckuss did not answer. Evidently, he had not yet received intuitive knowledge about Vader and the contract. Zuckuss breathed through the respirator and held his breath in. Then he breathed out and held his breath out for a moment. Forlum noted that it was the 1057th breath of his meditation. The Gan did not need to breathe often, but deep thinking seemed to require regular respiration. He had observed that Zuckuss usually received intuitive knowledge between the 1323rd breath and the 4369th. Once it had come on to the 53rd, 8.37 minutes into the meditation, but Forlum calculated that this is a statistical anomaly. Still, unlike most GANs, Zuckuss maintained a 91.33725% chance of being correct in whatever knowledge he gained through meditation. Knowledge about where their acquisition would hide, the exact number in a group, the intentions of others towards them. They needed to know now Darth Vader's intentions towards them. If Vader had somehow learned that it was Forlum and Zuckuss that had hunted as Sector Governor Nardox for the rebellion, Vader would want revenge. The rebellion had tried Nardox for crimes against the sentients, and the trial had been a great embarrassment for the Empire. The rebels, for the part, paid a princely sum for Nardox, and that was what Forlum and Zuckuss needed more of: credits, to buy medical care for Zuckuss. Illegal medical care. Zuckuss was not an old Gan, but he moved like one. If he went off the drugs that controlled his pain, and during his respiration cycle he breathed like one. Short, fitful breaths that drew air into lungs and esophageal tissue burned by contact with oxygen after a female human acquisition, stupidly struggling after Zuckuss had hunted her into a dark alley with no exit, pulled off his helmet. Forlum had secured the acquisition with no problem, and then tried to help Zuckuss, put his helmet back on, but before they could, Zuckuss had taken 3 breaths of poisonous oxygen. This was the cause for this significant embarrassment to Zuckuss, because he had retained sufficient presence of mind. He could have ceased his respiration until more convenience. Parts of his lungs had burned away that day, and what was left was functionally poor. Zuckuss needed new lungs that could be grown only in illegal and expensive cloning vats. So the Empire's credits tempted Forlum and Zuckuss with hope of new lungs. Another 8.37 minutes passed. Does Darth Vader know? Forlum asked. Again, Zuckuss did not answer. So, sorry, that was long, but
I enjoyed it though.
clearly you get the methodical, technical droid mind of Forlum on full display. He's paying attention to every little detail. He's analyzed Zuckuss thoroughly. Um, and then you get the hint, and we've talked about Zuckuss and Gand before because they're actually force sensitive. In Legends, they're legitimately force sensitive. Most of them, at least. The sort of hunter finders of them, and that's why they're hunter finders, is because they're force sensitive. The others just kind of benefit from the gift. And Zuckuss is esteemed as one of the best. Um, but it only comes through like strenuous meditation like that. And again, you see how like Forlum has calculated. It's like, okay, by now he's kind of got an idea. This many breaths, okay, he should have something by now. Like he's thinking all of this through. And the reason why, what I love about it is because for whatever reason, Forlum is interested in gaining intuitive knowledge.
Mhm.
He wants to do what Zuckus can do. Like he doesn't want to calculate. He doesn't want to think. He doesn't want to process. He wants to just know. He just like
Yeah.
it's something he can't do and he wants to.
It's one of those things like I love characters in sci-fi like Data who see what humans do, understand that it is a level above what AI can do
Hmm.
and want to achieve something like that. I mean, like the first scene we get of Data is him trying to learn how to whistle.
Right.
Like
And
it's
that's
great.
essentially what's going on here. Now, Forlum is still a droid, and some of the action he takes throughout the story is very droid-like. It's very, this is the most efficient. This is the best. This like why? Well, why is he? Why are they bounty hunters? Well, they're bounty hunters just because, for the most part. But now they're bounty hunters because of a reason. Zuckuss needs medical care. Um, it's like I love that not everybody's given this story, but it's that old school stereotypical story of bounty hunter with a heart of gold kind of thing.
Yeah, I need to go get the pills for my pet.
Right. But I love how they build it in. They're not necessarily. I wouldn't go so far as to say from the get go they've always been and are good guys, but kind of like with Dengar in the terms of, you know what? I don't know why anybody deserves to die, but I want to ask him why he thought I deserved to die. Like they have that perspective of, look, we're out to take care of us. So Zuckuss is very much that. We're out to take care of us, and that's kind of it. And Forlum's very much, I'm out to take care of me, and I think to do that, I need to learn what he can do. And it's just really interesting the kind of relationship that they have and everything.
Yeah.
Um, and so the next one is all Zuckuss, because the first one, all Forlum. A lot of the story is actually Forlum, and if you can't tell, it's because Zuckuss is just not healthy,
Yeah.
which explains why. Well, it's really because the actress in there could not see. Like she was just told to put on a costume and show up. She wasn't meant to be able to do much, and she couldn't do much.
Yeah, he's got space asthma.
Right. So they wanted to explain, like, well, maybe what if the droid takes care of the other one? Well, but why? And it's just like, well, he's wearing a mask. Maybe that's got something to do with it. And that's why their ship's called the Mist Hunter. It's filled with mist that he can breathe from his home world.
Which just makes me want to see it. Honestly, just like I would love to see. I love alien environments. I
Oh yeah,
love seeing stuff like that because, of course, he can't breathe oxygen.
hmm
He's not from Earth. He's not from
exactly.
these, nitrogen-rich planets.
Right. For a perspective on Zuckuss, and we're almost done, I promise. Hopefully, people are still here.
I'm still here.
Zuckuss meditated at times on who would eventually kill him. He knew it was a question of who would kill him, not what. The mist surrounding his own mortality remained mostly unreadable, though in his meditations he had had hints, and none involved an accident, or mechanical failure, or even injuries to his lungs that had brought him such pain. Another being would bring him his death. Zuckuss had ruled out Forlum. His long-standing partner did not want to kill him, and would not when they had separated. But twice Zuckuss had sensed that Jabba the Hutt would grow impatient with his weakness if he discovered it, and attempt to feed him to his rancor. That was a future he preferred to avoid. He sensed that he would not be killed in the mists of his homeworld, however much he missed it, and would have loved to die there. He would die somewhere else. He wondered for a time if Darth Vader would kill him, but he knew he had nothing to fear from Vader, at least for now. When he could, Zuckuss stood up and he injected himself with stimulants, then other drugs to boost the quickness of his mind and counteract the dulling effects of the painkiller. He heard the first mechanical sounds of docking, and the ship jerked about. He hurried to pull on his suit that protected him from oxygen and double checked its seals. He could afford no more burns. He pulled on old robes and then hid knives in his boots, ammonia bombs, lethal to oxygen breathers, up his sleeves. He strapped a fully charged blaster to his side in full view, and then he started for the hatch. He heard Forlum already walking toward it. Zuckus walked easier now. He breathed without pain. His stride soon carried him all the way, seeming confident in strength he had never had before. And for a moment he almost forgot the weakness he worked so hard to conceal. He realized then, walking toward the hatch and to meet Darth Vader, that he worked hard to hide his injuries and other implications from one other person. He realized that he, when he could, hid them from himself.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, it's very much that old gruff, like, struggle bus of a character and everything that makes you really like, man, I really hope he gets what he needs, but like the right way kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um,
I too meditate on who will someday kill me.
right. Well, it's interesting, like, in terms of, like, if you had the power, you knew you could foresee much, like, taking the
Yeah.
opportunity to do, it's a completely understandable thing.
Would you want to know?
That's the hard thing. I mean, almost so that in the time you had a piece, like, I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, it's one of those things. Like I think of Big Fish. I think of the witch that when you looked into her eye, you could see how you died.
Right. I love that when the main character does that, because the main character is arguably the
Yeah.
dad. When he does that, I love them.
He just goes, "Oh,
Huh. Yeah, I love it.
I love that the mean guy dies on the toilet."
Right. Um, it's very much you see what you see.
Yeah.
Like you see what you see, kind of, and that's the insinuation of
Mhm.
of the story, is that in the end he didn't know. That's why he needed
Yeah.
someone to tell him the story. It's like, but
yeah.
Dad, you looked into the witch's eye. You saw how it happened. Yeah, but tell me how it happens.
Yeah, I'd love to pretend that he saw himself surrounded by family.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I think he saw what he strived to to leave, which is a story, a big fish story.
That movie, even thinking about it, sometimes makes me
Oof.
cry.
Yeah,
Like
it's
just
emotional.
we're gonna talk about it if we can like just stock up on enough tissues.
Right. Um. So, I'm gonna skip some of the last little bit of the last one, just because a lot of it I can surmise
Yeah.
and get to the gist of what I want to show.
Yeah, you can really tell who skimmed for time and who prepared.
Well, no, it's more so. It's just I like to let the book do a lot of the telling, but at the same time, I like to talk about it, so it's tough. But yeah, essentially, in their effort to get to Han, they're like, well, so Zuckus foresees, well, he's going to reunite with the rebels. That's where we'll find him. So they're like, well, let's not go where everybody else is going. Let's find that rendezvous. So they hijack some rebels to do that. Rebels that survived Hoth, and what becomes a matter of, hey, like they're the nice kidnappers kind of scenario of like, hey, don't resist. It's gonna be okay. We just need you to get to here because we need this money. And then essentially what happens is the rebels are like, dude, we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you know what? Okay.
That's fine.
Like they take up the offer. They're like, because Zuckus the whole time he's like, once we get Han and his friends and deliver them to the Empire, we're gonna allow them every honor they deserve in their defeat. Like they're like, we're not gonna. They have no ill intentions.
Yeah.
They just he just wants to be able to breathe and live, and he knows that that's not how he dies. So clearly it has to happen. But he foresees it in this: we'll get the bounty. I don't die by that, so we'll get the bounty. When in reality, it's we don't get the bounty, but I don't die by that either. Like there's another way.
Yeah.
And so they join the rebellion actually, and it's just a really cool little turn on the head kind of thing.
Yeah,
And I love
a
it.
redemption arc.
Yeah. And so really it just brings them to the light. And there's also in intercut there's moments Forlum is practicing meditation. He's trying to meditate and everything, and that's the story I wanted to end out on. It also often amused Forlum to calculate the Imperial shock when they realized that not only had he and Zuckus defected to the rebellion, but they had managed to take 90 rebels and 2 medical droids from the downed transport with them. That the Imperials would be furious was an understatement. And often, as he worked alone on his ship, he practiced meditation. He, com- he completed more and more of his equation. In one meditation, he thought he glimpsed the futures that lay ahead of him. One, above the others, intrigued him. In it, he saw himself sitting with the young Jedi Knights in a newly established academy, and he could not tell if he had learned the ways of the Force or if he were still attempting to learn them. It was for a brief glimpse only, and just one of many possible futures. When Forlum told Zuckuss what he had seen, Zuckuss never doubted him. I love
so
it.
Cute.
It's like you have to have one really good, like, aw story.
Yeah.
And, I mean, technically Dengar kind of gets there with the whole...
He does.
But,
he gets married.
I mean, he kind of softens up, and Boba Fett's just kind of like, all right, this is your solid, bro. This is it. I wore a corsage for you. But yeah, I really love it, and I love the opposite of IG-88 in terms of the sentience that he strives for. And did he see a vision? Did he not? Was it like just calculations? Don't know. But I love that Zuckuss was just like, sure, yeah, buddy, sure. I love it. They're adorable.
And just a good friendship.
Oh yeah,
it's just such a sweet.
That's what I'm
friendship.
saying. Like if you go after bounty hunters just for the gruesome, gruff, and just like you're missing out on good stuff.
Here's the thing: if there's a bounty hunter for everybody, honestly, I think we can say that at this point. Like there's for every R.S. Singh, there's a Forlom and Zuckuss.
Mm-hmm.
There's IG-88 for every fan of Boba Fett, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you can go for Cad Bane if you like cowboys.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I'm sure even he has a kind of story that... Yeah. I mean, you don't have to end out with making them likable to be likable. Like,
no.
Like Bosk is no more likable for being cuddly. Like, it turns out, oh, no, he wanted to pet Chewbacca. No, he wanted to kill that dude. But it gives enough semblance of an interest, like...
Yeah.
Oh, like, this is religion for him. This is interesting. Like, that's something more. Like, he feels less than as a Trandoshan if he doesn't complete this. It's interesting. Also, he's a whistleblower because his dad runs the guild, but also he breaks the guild rules. Like, it's just like Bosk gets more interesting by being a snake, being like that's the irony, that's the metaphor.
I just took a sip.
It's like, oh no, he's like literally, like, what if he's literally like a metaphorical snake? It's just like he's constantly betraying and all this, like, yeah, it's interesting. So gonna go ahead and say thanks for listening, and hope you enjoyed this in some way.
Yeah, I had fun.
It's different. We have more books like this. We would be interested and like to maybe do this more.
Yeah, here's the thing is that's a series. There's Tales from the Bounty Hunter, there's Tales from Jabba's Palace, there's Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, there's Tales from the Empire, there's Tales from the Rebellion. There's so many in that series.
There's also a couple of canon ones. There is everybody's favorite from a certain point of view, which it's getting a sequel coming up. Maybe we'll do one for that, maybe. There's one for Maz's Castle. It was supposed to be in a series, but they never followed it up, and I'm so disappointed because we find out about a surviving clone trooper and all this other stuff. Yeah, dude, it's interesting. And so
I need to read that one.
If this is likable, if this didn't make your ears bleed, we might do it again. So let us know. We'd love to hear some feedback. We always love it. Otherwise, we'll probably just do it.
Probably.
Thank you to our patrons, Jim, Doug, Rebecca. Thank you for supporting the show and doing what you do. You can check out, we have a link tree now. We're not going to bombard the descriptions with several links. You can go to one link for all the links, and you can check out our Patreon page. Again, we let people know up front, you're not going to get millions of dollars worth of stuff and like all this awesomeness. We're tiny, and we're just a for fun podcast. And so patrons there, if you like it and want to support us, we definitely have a cool little community. Jim, Doug, and Rebecca give input all the time, and clearly it goes towards improving the show and everything. So if you like us enough to want to support us, you can do that. If not, that's totally cool. We appreciate you putting up with the ads. We appreciate you liking and sharing. That does a lot for us. We appreciate you just listening. That's awesome. That's always awesome when there's more than 0 listens on an episode. So thank you guys so much. Red5Network, they're in the link tree as well. Check them out. GameInfinite.net, they're in the link tree. Check them out. all kinds of other podcasts, game content, all kinds of awesome stuff going on with those people. Also, they're just cool, so support them if you can.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. We've got exciting stuff the rest of the week and everything, but I wanted to end off just reading an excerpt and letting that be the close of the episode. We didn't talk much about Boba Fett, so I wanted to at least give him his due and let him be what we go out on, because it's what the book goes out on. And I think it's a darn good ending.
Alrighty, go ahead.
Han ran toward his speeder under the dim light of the planet's only moon. He was slightly disoriented. He couldn't remember whether he was down lot where he'd left the speeder, or was south or west, or south and east. He ran south down one of the long alleyways between the water houses, breath coming short. He came up to the last building, the last cover before the down lot, and hesitated before rounding the corner. The down lot was either immediately to his left or immediately to his right. He tried to envision the layout of the warehouse park in his mind. He thought he'd come a quick way around, but maybe not. And if he hadn't, then Fett might have catched up to him down lot before. A scraping sound, metal on stone. Before he even realized what he was doing, Han found himself rounding the corner, rifle up and finger tightening on the trigger as Boba Fett was turning toward him, bringing up his own rifle. They stood there, in the middle of nowhere, on a planet the rest of the galaxy had no more than half forgotten, pointing rifles at one another, from a distance less than a meter. Han didn't fire. Fett didn't fire. Bizarre details piled in on Han. The armature of Fett's assault rifle was huge, big as this Death Star had seemed at first sight. The barrel wasn't perfectly steady. It wavered slightly, moving around almost invisible tiny circles. The moonlight glinted off of Fett's scarred armor. Han could see the moon reflected darkly on his black visor. He was still out of breath from running. His voice caught when he spoke. "I guess we're going to die together." Fett's voice, harsh and raw as ever. "Evidently." Han stared over the side at him. "Your armor didn't save you. Your armor won't save you. Not at this range." "No." "I doubt you could kill me quick enough to keep from firing." Fett's helmet moved slightly. A nod. "I doubt it too." Han did not dare take his eye away from the rifle's sight, aiming at the base of Fett's throat. "You killed those people back there. The woman." Han could have sworn he saw a shiver run up the bounty hunter's frame. "I'm sorry about that. She was not the target." Han almost pulled the trigger on him. He could hear the rage in his own voice. "You're gonna die. And I'm gonna die. And maybe we're both gonna deserve it. But that woman, she didn't do any. She's the one who called me." Han took a step forward and screamed, "I don't care." He found in his amazement that he was standing with the barrel of the rifle jammed up against Fett's armor, that the barrel of Fett's rifle was digging into his own breastbone. "I don't know what made you like you are. You think you get to decide who lives and who dies? I don't care. Come on, pull the trigger, and we'll die together." He stared into the black visor. "Last decision you'll ever make." Boba Fett said in a voice so soft Han could have sworn it wasn't even Boba Fett's. "You first." His voice got even softer amazingly. "You're married, aren't you? You have children. They need you. What were you doing out here, Solo? Pretending to be young again? This is no place for a man like you." The fury that touched Han was bone deep. "Don't you talk about my family. I'll kill you so fast. Do you want to die?" Han took a deep breath. "Do you?" Fett shook his head in the tiniest possible movement of the visor. "No. But I don't see any way out." The faintest breath of hope touched Han. "All right. You put down your rifle. I won't kill you if you put down your rifle." Fett whispered, "No. You put down yours. I won't kill you if you put down your rifle. I'll let you go back to your family, unharmed. Just put down your weapon. I don't trust you, nor I you." A cold wind blew across the down lot. Han felt it drying his sweat, chilling him. "We take 5 steps back," he said. "You drop your rifle, and you run like a gundark on fire. Even if I do shoot you, that armor will protect you." "I have bad legs. I don't think I can outrun you." Han could not stop thinking of his children and Leia. Just walk away. Put the rifle down and walk away. I'm an honest man. I won't kill you. You're a liar, said Fett. By all evidence, I think you would. He paused. When I was a young man, he said, I think I could have pulled the trigger by now. But I find that I do not hate you, and I am not ready to die, to be removed from this world. I made a mistake coming here. I do hate you. I hate everything that you've done, but my wife and children need me. I don't see any way out of this, said Fett. That does not involve trying to trust one another. The rifle's getting heavy, said Han, which it was. He watched Fett over the sight. What are we going to do? Everyone dies, said Fett. Yeah, eventually, but it doesn't have to be today. Not for either of us. Fett shook his head, helmet barely moving, and Han didn't imagine that Fett's attention even shifted slightly. I don't know, Fett said softly. Trust is hard among enemies. Perhaps we should return to the battle. Perhaps, Han Solo, we should let fly, and once more let fate decide who wins, who survives, like we did when we were young. And that's the end.
And that's the end.
It's such a cowboy ending, isn't it?
It is.
It's amazing.
And also, he got bad legs.
Yeah, well, this is years. This is way, way, way after. This is like 20 years after the main movies and everything. And I referenced this in the last one where they kind of meet up later. And it ends there. It ends ambiguous as to what happens. Because nobody wants to write the end of two great characters like that. But what's interesting about Boba's story, I'll say, is that it starts off from their first meeting and supposedly to their last meeting. And it's just really interesting to kind of follow that journey. And I mean, the ending of it all is it's about this idea, can an old dog learn new tricks? The whole thing is, throughout the story, it emphasizes their age. Like it's just like every movement they make, it hints at how hard it is. Every decision they make, it's just like, I wouldn't have done that if I was younger. Like, it's going on to show they've been doing this for so long. Do they even really know why they do it anymore? Do they even really have a good reason? Don't know. Can they change? Don't know. And it ends on that question mark, because that's the best cowboy ending. Question mark. You know, because we'd rather live in the high noon, scene than the aftermath and everything like that. So pick up this book if you dare. Highly worth it. Recommend it and everything. Thanks for putting up with this episode. More in the future.